Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast All Day. It's another week of this. And Matt and Christy are here. I'm Alonso, and we're going to delve into the week just passed because the news just keeps happening. What are you going to do?
Well, the most important news of the week of all, just came out today.
Right. My new peacock tiki mug.
Your peacock tiki mug is very cool. The most important news of all, however, is that there's going to be a second season of The Vow.
Oh.
And weren't we just talking about how 9 episodes already feels like too much?
Yeah. Keith Raniere is torturing us all now.
So The Vow season 2 will happen in 2021. We will be talking about episode 8 today, the penultimate episode today on our Patreon. But apparently this new season will focus on the trial because, as we know, if you follow all the NXIVM news, there was a trial and there were convictions. And so this upcoming season, will delve into all of that.
And if you can't wait for the next season, the first episode of the Stars NXIVM documentary that centers on India Oxenberg launches Sunday.
Is that a whole series or is it just one thing?
I think it's
4 episodes.
It's another series. They are bleeding this turnip dry.
Is this better or worse than Tiger King? Which seems like a lifetime ago, by the way.
Yeah, right? I mean, I guess in the sense that the Tigers had no say in all of this. I mean, this is a thing that happened to people who did sign into, as I said, nobody signs up to be in a cult, but they did sign on to be part of this organization. And then as things got worse and worse, they had to figure out how to get out of it. I guess that makes it more interesting, but enough with the NXIVM news already.
I think a little bit of it depends on what kind of sex cult you're into. I mean, they just arrested Doc,
Doc Antle.
Doc Antle, right?
With the wives, right.
That might be the perfect kind of mashup of both of these because he had all those wives. And so maybe we get a whole show about him. And
he too was polyamorous
right.
before it was cool.
Maybe he and Keith can host a show from behind bars.
So much hair. So much bad clothing. Anyway, so that just happened today that there's going to be a second season of The Vow. Are we contractually or ethically obligated to talk about it?
Maybe it's like childbirth. Maybe by the time season 2 rolls around, we'll have forgotten the pain of season 1 and we'll be ready to take it on again. I don't know.
Yes. Last night here in the United States and around the world, we had dueling town halls between President Trump and Joe Biden. They were meant to meet physically in the same space for a town hall. And then because of COVID concerns on the part of the Biden campaign, they wanted to do it virtually and Trump's like, no. And
he chickened out.
They did the most counterintuitive thing of all. And as far as people being informed and taking part in democracy, they had competing town halls on at the same time on 2 different channels.
So first Trump pitches a fit and won't do the thing. And then he insists on doing one on NBC at the same time as Biden's, and NBC says yes to this. So that's what we're looking at here.
And then hours before the event, Trump was tweeting insults at Savannah Guthrie, who was going to be interviewing him as part of the town hall, insulting NBC, insulting Savannah Guthrie, basically tormenting them to say cancel this, don't make me do this, and yet they did it anyway.
Well, as somebody on Twitter said, him insulting the moderator and the network hours beforehand, and then afterwards complaining that they were mean to him is classic Trump.
I mean, so we had it on the TV here. Chris had to watch it for work. So we had the Trump thing on. I did not watch it because at the exact same time as both of these town halls was the Power of the Polls Zoom call to train to be a poll worker, which had 22,000 people on a Zoom call. Wow. And Billie Eilish called in and Isaiah Thomas called in. So I didn't watch either of them. Did you guys watch either the Biden or Trump one?
I watched the trial of the Chicago 7 last night, which we'll be talking about on the show.
And I think it's the kind of thing where if you're already going to vote for Trump, you're going to watch the Trump thing. If you're going to vote for Biden, you're going to watch the Biden thing. But they had this one woman who has become quasi-famous because she asked the stupidest question, and she prefaced her whole thing with, "You have the loveliest smile," to Trump, which is not true. But then it's funny because she's actually leaning toward voting for Biden, who also has a nice smile.
He does.
And crocodiles have nice smiles too.
One of the benefits of already having voted is that I can feel completely guilt-free about not listening to any more of this nonsense.
Right. So I don't know what, I'm curious to hear if you guys are watching or listening, what the voting process has been like for you if you have done it early. Alonso and I both dropped our ballots into our respective drop boxes and both got our responses back from the LA County Registrar's Office saying we have received it. The system works. I dropped my ballot in late on a Tuesday afternoon, and Saturday morning I had that text of confirmation. So I'm curious to know what voting is like where you guys live.
It hasn't totally worked seamlessly.
Well, nothing ever does.
So my wife and I both got absentee, or we applied, we registered to get absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. And I've had mine for a couple of weeks, and Jen has not.
Oh,
and it has very, very much stressed her out. And it's like she's been checking, and I have not sent mine in because she has been saying that it's made her so anxious to see everyone else send theirs in and get the and post the notification, hey, your thing's going to get counted, and she still hasn't even gotten hers. And so I've kind of not sent mine in, partly because I don't want to add to that. Long story short, basically we found out that they had sent it to the wrong address. Was
it your old house?
No, it was somebody. They actually sent it to where the sellers of this house moved to.
Oh.
Wow.
Right. Mistakes were made. I don't know what they're drinking at the post office. So she has to go.
Her ballot.
So she's going to go to Norwalk to get a ballot.
Wow, that's a schlep.
And then we will put our ballots in. Meanwhile, I've put up a bunch of my own boxes asking for GOP ballots that I will make sure get counted by me and disposed of.
That the Republican Party is not only putting those boxes around Los Angeles, these fake ballot boxes that are just designed to sort of steal your ballot, they're copying to it. They're like, oh yeah, we put them there.
And Trump is tweeting, Republicans fight hard.
Yeah, amongst the problems with a lot of the GOP platform and on a lot of social issues is it's similar to like the whole same gender or genderless bathroom thing. Like, if you're worried about somebody going into the bathroom and doing something weird, like maybe we need to watch you. Like, right? Like, if you're that worried about, we've seen the GOP that worried about voter fraud. Like, oh, well, right, you guys are suppressing the vote and then also being fraudulent about it. So
it's total projection. Yeah.
Right, it is total projection. And
they're trying to undermine people's confidence in the system, which generally works.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's maddening is like, maybe if you're, maybe, just maybe, hear me out here, just maybe, if you think the way you have to win is to get people to not vote, maybe you might need to update your platform.
Huh.
Well, this is how the ruling class screws people over in a democracy,
I meant to mention earlier when we were talking about the town halls that Biden.
Is it Towns Hall?
Towns Hall, attorneys general,
Towns Van Zandt,
inspectors general.
The city of Townsville.
Biden's had about 13.9 million viewers on ABC, and Trump's across the three channels of NBC, MSNBC, and CNBC had 13 million. So we know how much ratings matter to him. We know how much quantifying everything, crowd size, whatever.
But we also know that whenever the numbers aren't in his favor, that they're made up.
They're fake news.
Yeah, always.
So we have that for news. Also,
in the same way that if he wins the election, it was valid, and if he doesn't, it was rigged.
Right. AMC may indeed file for bankruptcy.
Yes.
Now, finally, Matt, this is a topic that you are very knowledgeable about.
They're
theaters and all that.
Yeah, they've been talking this week about how it's likely that they're going to run out of cash by the end of the year, unless even if something changes. So, they were flirting with that anyway. I can't imagine. like if you're AMC and you file for bankruptcy as an investor, I have to imagine as a potential investor, you're really playing a long game there. Like you have to plan that movies will come back and that you've got enough money to sink into that and then just kind of sit on it for a couple of years until the business recovers.
So what does it mean if they file for bankruptcy? Does it mean that theaters have to close or not?
Well, it depends on how they file, right? So if they file for Chapter 11, that's a reorganization and they can still run their business, as opposed to like Chapter 7 where everything fucking shuts down and everybody's let go. Chapter 11 allows them to basically, kind of short a lot of their creditors, have less liability for debts that are owed. And then it makes it easier for them to shut down locations. But it, like, who knows, right? Like it's part of, I mean, look, like I think a little bit of what's happening is AMC is the first one. And the problem with what's happening right now is I think that both the movie industry, but the exhibition industry is somewhat paying the price for the vast overexpansion that happened in the 90s and early 2000s, where they were overly, like, they've saturated the market and they turn movies into a commodity as opposed to an event. So when your business means that you have to have a movie open on 2,500, 3,000 screens and, all 20 screens in your Cineplex, when those movies dry up, you're screwed. And so, if we go back to, I could see the industry resettling back to where there's, nationwide, 5,000 screens as opposed to the 20,000, and it's a smaller business model. We'll see, right? I mean, it's kind of anybody's game. The thing is, like, there's enough cultural heritage that we're used to going to movies that I think the X factor is that's hard to stop, right? There's a little bit of, in my mind, kind of the if you build it, they will come. If there's movies in theaters, people will go. It's just that there's no movies right now. It doesn't mean nobody's ever going to go back.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the long game here. It's like no one wants to tear down all the movie theaters only to discover that in 3 to 5 years, oh no, we're back and we need, where are the theaters? So like there has to be some way to sort of figure out, like, what do we keep open? What can we afford to keep open for an eventual turnaround of this situation? And if there's too many now, then maybe now is the time when we start sort of culling the herd and figuring out which are the locations that need to remain open with the ginormous size they're at, and which ones maybe could fall by the wayside.
Yeah, as somebody who is not at all an economist, so take whatever I say here with a grain of salt, I can't help but wonder if we're going to see what's happening with the theatrical, especially with exhibition, similar to what we saw with the American car industry in the early 70s, where it was an external force like the gas crunch, also, and somewhat insurance as well, killing an industry that was almost building for itself and not for its customers. And there was a big reset. And so what you saw by the end of the 70s and early 80s was a wildly different industry as far as what they were putting out. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't forgotten some of those lessons, but you did see a lot of different things happen in the auto industry. And I think we're going to see some of that vaguely similar to the exhibitors.
Interesting theory. I like that. I should have mentioned back when we were still in our political talk that Barron Trump has tested positive.
And how's the first lady doing? I haven't heard anybody talk about that.
Well, this is how we learned that Barron has it or had it.
Yeah. Because
she put out a statement saying, I'm feeling better. Allegedly, Trump needed this very elaborate and expensive cocktail of Regeneron and other things.
Formula.
But she said she did vitamins and fresh air. Bing! And that worked. But she also, in the statement that she put out, said that Barron had it. So that kind of deflates Trump's theory about how kids don't get it, I mean, he's a teenager. He's 14. And then the way he talked about it was so creepy. He was like, my son, Baron, he's so beautiful. My beautiful boy. He's so tall and handsome. And he had it, but he's fine now.
I was going to say the White House is a hot zone, but Barron doesn't even live there, right? He's still in New York.
No, he lives there.
He does live in the White House
there. Yeah, he goes to some private school in Virginia.
Because remember at the beginning of this administration, the whole thing how like they were keeping the New York place because he didn't want to move from schools, and I haven't been keeping up with this. So.
That was to finish out, I think, the semester of whatever school he was in 2017. But yeah, they live here. He lives here. He's incredibly tall. Do you not see the Baron memes? He is very tall. He's taller than his dad.
Yeah.
He's like 6'4". Anyways, so Baron had it. LA Comic-Con, a thing that I think we just talked about maybe last week.
Yeah.
Has been pushed to September of 2021.
That's
right. They just give it up this year. Good.
Yeah. But stick a fork in 2020 for this kind of thing. It's just not, these gatherings are not happening.
It's smart. I mean, I don't know how they would entertain the possibility of doing it this year, even in like a reduced form.
No.
There's just no way. So I'm pleased to see that was a smart, prudent decision.
And I'm sure,
except that in their announcement, similar to the way Disney's doing, like, well, the governor won't let us do big events with lots of people, so we're gonna like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys see recall Gavin Newsom signs in your part of the world? Because I do.
No, brother. Last time we had a recall, we wound up with Schwarzenegger, so no thanks.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Listen, Schwarzenegger is better than Pete Wilson.
Potato. But look, and so many other cons have figured out a way to go virtual, where they have virtual panels, they have virtual, even like meet and greet things where you get like a 3-minute Zoom call with whatever, like genre celeb you wanted to see, or like you can purchase autographs, over the internet and stuff. So there are ways for them to do things that will allow fans to get what they want out of it, that will allow the guests to get their interaction with the public and all that stuff without endangering everybody.
There's going to be a Mad Max prequel starring Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, and
it's called Irritated Max. He's not quite mad yet.
Slightly perturbed.
Disturbed Max.
Right.
Before the first Mad Max, or between Road Warrior and Fury Road?
I'm not sure where it falls. I mean, like, if they're gonna go age-wise, time-wise, I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy is like in her early 30s, and Charlize Theron is like in her mid-40s. So in theory, is it 20 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, what's I'm not even sure what the span within the franchise is between the first one and the fourth.
What's time?
Oh yeah, with Thunderdome. I forgot about Thunderdome. That's in there somewhere too.
Yes. So that's gonna be really cool. An incredible supporting cast, including Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Chris Hemsworth.
Is George Miller directing it?
I don't know.
Because if he is, then I'm in. And if it's not, I don't care.
But I'm interested in how Furiosa became Furiosa.
I am, if George Miller is.
What made her so furious?
Yes.
She used to be Imperator Chill Out, and then
exactly.
The sequel to Coming to America, which is titled appropriately Coming to America, is moving from Paramount to Amazon, and that'll be streaming on December 18th. And then,
my birthday.
Is it your birthday?
Oh. Have you heard about the story for that?
About your birthday?
No. What? Yeah, I can't have a big birthday party. No, the story is that Prince Akeem has a previously unknown offspring somewhere in Queens.
Oh. Is it a boy or a girl?
I guess there were deleted scenes in the first one.
Yes. What other news do I have for you? I've got a bunch of news for you. I'm looking for it. Okay. So the other direction of that, the flip side of that, is that the Grease prequel is going to Paramount from HBO Max.
Who asked for this?
I don't need this. I mean, what is it? Is it just like the summer that Sandy and Danny met?
I think it's the summer, and it's like who cares? We got one song and we moved on. Like now we're going to do a whole movie about that. I mean,
I feel like we covered that in the song, and I feel pretty good about that. And I feel like even Hopelessly Devoted to You kind of fills in the contours of that.
You're right. Yes.
I'm clear on what happened.
I think we're good.
Conchata Ferrell died.
Yes. That a heartbreaker. I've always been such a huge fan of hers. I love character actors in general, but she was one of those ones like she would pop in a movie, you'd be like, oh, it was always exciting. I had forgotten one of her first films was Network.
Who was she in Network? I can't remember.
She's one of the circle of people that when Faye Dunaway is like, by the way, the next time I give you an audience response survey, I expect you to read it or I'll sack the fucking lot of you. She's one of them. She's the one who suggested they call the show the Mao Zedong Hour. And she has a really funny monologue in the movie about where she's reading off the plot lines of potential shows. And they're all like, supporting characters include a crusty but lovable former Supreme Court justice. That's Conchata Ferrell.
That's so funny. Yeah, somebody who, you see them all the time. You take like Margot Martindale, who has now gotten more chances to shine, but somebody who just is around forever, is solid, is reliable. Like you're happy to see them whenever they show up.
And look, she got that TV money from 2.5 Men, so I'm thrilled for her. I never watched that show, but I'm sure like she got a house out of it, so more power to her. Rest in peace.
Here's a story that Matt sent me just this morning that apparently when Chadwick Boseman died, he had not made out a will.
Hey.
And so now his wife, who he married secretly during his illness, she is now seeking to settle his estate. She is asking to be made an administrator of the estate. Chadwick Boseman's parents are both still around, and he also had a couple of brothers. So I guess that's all kind of up in the air. But
yeah, so one of the stories I read said that there is almost $1 million in the estate. Now, presumably, a lot of that money went to trusts. And so you have to imagine most of that stuff probably was taken care of. Like maybe he didn't file because there were enough trusts set up that, the leftover money wasn't that big a deal.
$1 million sounds small.
It also may well be that this is purely a pro forma thing that
maybe
because he didn't leave a will, she has to then go through some legal hurdles and like, okay, fine, you're the wife and it's California. So, boom. So, unless it turns into a whole thing where like she and the parents are fighting over it or whatever, this is probably just like, well, he didn't leave a will. So these are the bureaucratic hurdles that everybody would have.
Right. And here's the leftover liquid cash that's not tied up in the various trusts that took the salary money he'd been making for all the other movies in the last 4 years.
Right. And obviously there's, there's an issue of the future residuals from like Black Panther and whatever other, from all of his films, that's, I'm sure, something.
Yes. Matthew Cherry, the great Matthew Cherry, who directed the Oscar-winning Hair Love, is working on an Afrocentric take on the legend of King Tut, just called Tut, and he'll be doing it with DreamWorks Animation.
Okay.
That sounds pretty cool. I'm a fan of his in general. He's a fantastic Twitter follow. If you don't already follow Matthew Cherry, he's one of the ones who truly uses his feed for good.
DreamWorks did Prince of Egypt, right?
Yes, that was their animated film.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember. That's almost. Oh, it's also this.
Will they use the Steve Martin song?
Right. I think there's.
You think they would have to?
Yes.
They'll get like what's his face? Like one of the Flight of the Conchords will perform it or something.
Right.
Here's something that nobody was asking for. There's going to be a Dexter reboot on Showtime coming in fall of 2021.
Didn't everybody hate the last season of that show? I didn't really watch it much, but I seem to recall that was one of those shows that had a big following and then everybody hated the end of it. So is it just to sort of clear that taste out of everybody's mouth, I guess?
To fix it? Yeah. I don't know. I never really watched Dexter, but I have no interest in visiting or revisiting Dexter. So
I made it through most of the first season, was just kind of like, not my thing. I know people who dug it, but it didn't grab me.
Finally, this might be my finally. I don't have a whole lot of news for you guys this week, but there's a really cute Lady Gaga video that Matt sent around of her. She made a really cute little song where she's playing the piano and singing and urging people to vote. So if you go to Lady Gaga's Twitter feed, you can find that. She's got this. It's just like a sweet little song. It's very funny.
Did last week, did we talk about the Gal Gadot news? Cleopatra?
Oh, no, we did not.
No.
She's going to play Cleopatra. For Patty Jenkins? Is that who's going to direct it?
And everyone's mad.
Why is everyone mad?
Well, so there are some people mad that Cleopatra's not been cast as a Black woman. There are then Egyptian descended people that are very mad that
because she's Israeli.
Because she's Israeli. I haven't heard anyone of Greek descent really complain because I believe Cleopatra was descended from Greek heritage, Macedonians. But yeah, everybody's pissed. Yeah. Wow. So whatever flavor you want to attack this, everybody's mad.
Oh, what I thought was really interesting was that apparently there was some piece about like how much more she was making for Wonder Woman 1984 than for the first one, but she got something like less than $500,000 for starring in Wonder Woman, which I know she wasn't a huge name yet, but like that just seems kind of low.
Well, I could see that if they had booked her for a certain amount of appearances, right? Like if they had.
I mean, yeah, if it was the thing like, and then we'll get you this much for Justice League and this much for the next one, like, I suppose then, yeah, if it's an entry level kind of deal, but I don't know. That just sort of struck me as unusual.
Anyway, that's all the news I have for you. Go vote. Okay.
Yes.
Let's do marquees. Do you have marquees?
Yes.
Do you really have 31 pictures today, Matt?
I have almost 30 pictures. Yes.
That's crazy.
We'll briskly saunter through.
Yes. I have a lot, and partly because I went through the email. People had been emailing stuff to us that I had been missing. So my apologies.
Right, we have an email account.
Yes. So we do. So let me get to this.
I forget to check it.
Apparently we all do.
That'll never happen again.
Right. So let me go to full screen. All right. So this is the one we opened the show with. This is the Orpheum Theater, which says we're back, at least for film production, wear a face mask.
That is in downtown LA, gorgeous old theater.
So
I saw Joe Jackson there.
We've had opening night of Outfest there every year for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I grabbed that picture from Historic Theater Photos. They've got a bunch of really cool pictures there. Okay, next, this is from a theater in Dallas. It says it's the Texas Theater. You can go to texastheater.com and get some information. They remind us, do come and see films here eventually.
Matt,
this is not just a theater in Dallas.
I was going to say, this is the historic Texas Theater in Oak Cliff where Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested. It's a landmark.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But it's not a landmark theater.
No. All right. So we got a bunch of pictures from Al Faison. This is from early September. He writes, "Hello, Bad Team. I have been a loyal watcher, listener, readers for years. Of all of you, I look forward to hearing what you have to say each week, no matter what the conditions. I wanted to share that I saw Tenet with my wife opening weekend in Virginia Beach, Virginia at Regal Cinemas. Final show of the evening. On the biggest screen with a few hundred seats, the only ones except for one lonely man who sat in the middle of the lower section. Did a lot of research before going. His wife and I felt safe in the theater, sitting in the back row all the way at the top. There they are. Masks on all the time, no concessions, and almost no one else in the theater. He writes he's a recent thyroid cancer survivor, particularly cautious to go back to this theater. However, his love of movies and the theatrical experience pulled him back, just like Alonso. Hadn't been away from the theater for so long since he was a young boy. Surreal to be there. They say they enjoyed the film, although they couldn't follow it. They think subsequent viewings would heighten our appreciation of it. The movie's quite complex, has some spectacular action, and is a masterful technical and logistical achievement in my humble opinion. I look forward to seeing it again. I'm sure it's going to play for a long time." He sent some more pictures. There's only one other person, as you can see right there.
Wow. That's the way to do it.
Right at the Regal Theater. He says, "I truly hope to hear what you all think of Tenet one day. I completely respect your frustration over not wanting to see it in the theater and over the fact that the studio is not providing a means to see it at home. I agree with the idea of renting the theater out would be the way to go for a lot of people. Studios should definitely do this for critics. I hope they come around. We'll also see in the coming months how many people are willing to return to the movies." He also says, a truly undoctored picture of the marquee showing his name prominently among the burned out lights. So thank you, Al.
Thank you, Al.
I have
Next
actually,
is-
sorry, just real quick. I have just been offered my first like solo screening by a publicist, and I was like, nope, Link would be fine. Thank
No,
you.
but if it's just you by yourself in the screening room, is that not okay?
Air conditioning. I don't trust the ventilation. This is an airborne virus. Like unless you've got like hospital grade filters, you don't know what you're breathing in there.
But let me ask you this: if you're wearing a mask the whole time inside the screening room, does that not give you some protection?
It may or may not give you protection. I don't feel comfortable with it.
Okay. What was the movie?
Okay.
Can you say?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
All right. Alex Reichmann sent in a picture, says, longtime fan from the WTF days, caught this marquee while driving past the Lafayette Theater in Suffern, New York. Best regards. And that marquee says, is it 2021 yet?
Amen.
Very soon.
This next one is from Bill Spots. This is in Albuquerque, TD's Eubank. It is a strip club.
A gentleman's establishment, Matt.
Gentleman's establishment. They are
place.
closed, still clothed, they tell us.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Next up, we have a bunch of pictures from Deborah Steger, who is from San Diego. She writes that she is a movie junkie, loves your podcast. She says, keep it coming. This week, she's been touring Central Oregon, have a few pics of indie movie houses to share. First one is, this is the Tower Theater in Bend, Oregon. Constructed in 1940 and after a series of renovations serves as a movie theater and event center. Reopened late this summer with limited capacity and some old favorites. As you can see here, the Spaceballs and Hook and Monty Python's Life of Brian. And the light post flags show community support for independent film and smart marketing. Yeah, so
nice.
That's in Bend. Then she gives us Sisters Movie House in Sisters, Oregon. Looks like a big old barn. Hometown 4-box movie theater with the Western facade, a style prevalent throughout downtown Sisters. Still closed for movies, but is pivoted to sell popcorn.
That's so cute. It looks like they must have like cute little scented candles in there too.
Right.
Charming little rustic place.
Yeah, still closed for movies, pivoted to sell popcorn and exhibit work of local artists with limited capacity. The sign says, sorry, we're closed for now. Thanks, COVID-19. SaveYourCinema.com. And you can see that they've got some artists. This was from back in September, but presumably this stuff's still happening.
I wonder if they showed the Sisters Brothers.
One can hope.
Or your sister's sister.
Oh, yeah.
Or Hannah and her sisters.
Sister Act.
Anyway, what about Mr. This last one, her last set of pictures are from the Metro. This is the Broadway Metro in Eugene, Oregon. Indie multiplex in heart of Eugene, recently expanded to reopen soon with new releases, but in the meantime offering private screenings at reduced rate and popcorn and beer delivery. A message of unity, you can see here. Eugene
Metro at
together,
home.
right? And then the last picture, Eugene together. So thank you, Deborah, for sending those in. Next up, Eric Riley writes us. He says, first-time listener or long-time listener, first-time emailer, wanted to submit a photo of a theater I recently walked past in Santa Barbara. I live in LA. My partner and I went to SB for the weekend. The photo was taken on a film camera. Development didn't go as planned, so excuse the grain. For what it's worth, I monkeyed with this in Photoshop to kind of get what we could see. Love you all so much, he writes. Yeah, so I've messed with the contrast a little bit so you can see it says vote Arlington as best theater, and then underneath it says opening soon, wear a mask.
See, you could tell people that this shot was taken during the epidemic of 1918, and I'd believe
Yes.
you.
Practically.
Not
Okay, next up,
1917, Matt. 1918.
1918. Next up, our good friend Geoff Swanson, who sends us a lot of pictures. Once again, the Parkway Theater in Minneapolis begs the question, would Trump make a good babysitter? It says, don't tell mom the babysitter tested positive. No, Trump would not make a good babysitter.
No.
Mom needs to know these things.
Yes. They're sponsoring our virtual watch party and fundraiser for the National Independent Venue Association. This next one is a picture Christy passed on from Howard Sherman. He's a writer who covers the Broadway beat. And this says on the floor in front of the theater, Miss Theater, wear a fucking mask. Look up Howard Sherman on Twitter. He's got a long rant about, or not rant, a long speech about why it's important that we wear masks, because this is another industry where people are out of work.
Yeah, interesting. There's a poster there for Aaron Tveit in Moulin Rouge, who was nominated for Best Actor this week for a Tony as Best Actor in a Musical, and is the only nominee in that category. But he still has to get 40% of the vote, or he doesn't win.
Huh.
Interesting.
Jakob Kolness, who sent us pictures before, sent us another picture from the Fargo Theater. Says, "Hold on to your masks." Yes, and wear them.
Yes.
Jessica Ray sent us this great picture. She writes in and says, "I wanted to share a marquee sign from our city. It isn't technically on a theater marquee, but on the historic Stax Museum of American Soul. It is a marquee and coronavirus related. I also wanted to let you know my husband and I have been enjoying the weekly news podcast and videos. They were also longtime viewers of What the Flick. So glad you're able to continue in any form.
Thank you.
Keep it up." And this has beautiful Stax sign, and the marquee says, "Give a damn, wear a mask." Next up, Mark Garrett snapped this picture, he says, of George R.R. Martin's Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we can see it says, one side of the marquee says, "Be excellent to each other," and the other side says, "Temporarily closed. Check out our virtual screenings." And then he also sent us one of the Lensic. And that says, "Beat the Blues," an online fundraiser for the Lensic. That was late September. He says this cinema was opened in 1976 as Collective Fantasy, a cinema house run by 4 hippies, and then was bought and renamed the Jean Cocteau in 83, traded hands to TriStar, closed in 06, finally reopened by George R.R. Martin in 2013 with a bar and an adjoining bookstore. He also says, "Be safe, breakfast all day crew. Been watching religiously since the beginning. Appreciate your show a lot." Thanks, Mark.
Two very different styles of theater in Santa Fe. The first one was super Art Deco, and this one is really like old and richly ornate.
Yeah, it's almost like Mission style, right? This past one, definitely kind of a local Mission style. Okay, so Raya Hayes-Mora wrote this, or sent this in from, this is a movie marquee in Kernville, California, the Real Cinema, and it says, "Gone fishing, back soon." www.rrealcinema.com.
It's REEL.
Right.
And it looks like a convenience store, like on the side of the highway.
It does. It's kind of a shotgun shack there.
Yeah, it does. Probably a small house. Now, Robert Jannette sent us a picture from the Cape Cinema. And there's a website that he included. You should check out capecinema.com because it's got pictures of the mural that is up on the ceiling in this. He says the Cape Cinema has been entertaining locals of Dennis and the rest of Cape Cod, Massachusetts for nearly 100 years. The 1930 building was founded by Edna Tweeney and Raymond Moore just a couple years after the Cape Playhouse. The exterior of the cinema often confuses new guests who ask us how long the building has been a theater and when it stopped being a church.
Right?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
It looks so New England, like white.
Right. The funny thing is that the building has always been a cinema, but was designed by Alfred Easton Poor, who modeled it after the South Congregational Church, which is located in Centerville, just a few towns over. Current owner is of the Cape Cinema, Eric Hart, has been managing and running it since 1986. Even began hosting summer concerts in 2008.
I've always said the cinema is a cathedral, but I've never seen it quite this literal before.
And even the sign out front, Matt, that photo right there, that looks like a sign you'd see outside of a church telling you what time the services are.
Yeah, what the sermon's going to be about.
Exactly.
It's going to be about First Cow. This week is First Cow.
There you go. Next up, Tim Gruver sent this in. He's based in Salem, Oregon. He says, our own Regal-owned theater, Cinebarrowland, it's a bar and a movie theater, has its own well wishes to its audience during the pandemic. Hope you can include it on your show. Sometimes nothing is the hardest things to do, the marquee says. So that's it from all the stuff people have sent in. I have one last one that I grabbed this week. Outside the Dunn Lumber, it says, "My 3 favorite things are eating, my family, and not using commas."
Very cute.
Thank you to everybody who sent in marquees and who had such sweet things to say. We appreciate that you guys have hung on with us in our various locations and whatnot, and through all of this nightmare that we're all going through. But it means a lot to us that y'all are so steadfast and so supportive.
Indeed. It's good to hear from you from all over the world, too. It's really exciting to see that we have friends everywhere. It's very touching.
We do. Groovy. So is that's us this week. All right. Awesome. Well, listen, everybody, have a good week as best you can. Take care of yourselves and each other. You can find us on the social medias at BeFastAllDay. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, why not like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our Patreon page over at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We are getting close to the end of the current seasons of The Vow and Lovecraft Country on HBO, but we've got so much exciting stuff coming up, including season 2 of The Mandalorian, a horror off the menu selection that if you hurry up and join at our $5 level, you still got time to vote on, and so much more. So check all that out. Thanks for watching, you guys. You're the best. We'll see you next time. Bye.